9 years ago, Volvo Car Malaysia blew us away with the second generation Volvo XC90, which offered space, practicality, safety and performance at a truly unbeatable price. Now, 9 years later, our breaths are about to be taken away by this, the new EX90, offering all-electric performance, usability and versatility, complementing the also incoming facelift Volvo XC90. With 7 seats, incredible performance and a price rumoured to start at somewhere around 450,000 ringgit, this might just be the best value large EV on the market. Now, before we get into too many details, I would like to point out the fact that this is a closed-door media preview and we haven't been furnished with that many details, and so most of the information that you get off of here are ones that we managed to crib off of the international websites. Now, we've been led to believe that the Volvo EX90 will be available in Malaysia in 2 guises, being the twin motor and the twin motor performance. Now, the twin motor offers 408 PS and 770 Newton meters of torque, whereas the twin motor performance offers 517 PS and 910 Newton meters of torque. Now, regardless of which variant you go for, both of them will be powered by the same battery pack, a 111 kilowatt-hour NMC battery, enabling a WLTP range of up to 600 kilometers on the twin motor and 590 on the twin motor performance. In terms of charging, the EX90 rides on a 400-volt architecture. However, DC charging rates are up to 250 kilowatts, allowing this car to charge from 10 to 80% in just half an hour. Now, in terms of AC charging, this car will accept up to 11 kilowatts, which means that a dead to full charge will take about 10 hours. Now, 11 kilowatts should be fine for those of you driving these cars as urban runabouts, but given the size of the battery, it is slightly embarrassing that Smart offers 22 kilowatts AC charging on their cars. Now, the Volvo EX90 was actually unveiled back in 2022, and it's taken this long for this car to actually reach production, more importantly to reach our shores. So in that time, the EX90 has actually influenced other Volvo models. So for example, the EX30, which we've already driven and reviewed, that car takes a lot of design inspiration from this. And so while this might look familiar, in terms of the timeline, this car actually came first. Now, up front, you get a bluff front end with no grille whatsoever, but you still get the very proud Volvo iron mark going all the way across. And despite the lack of the grille that we normally see from Volvo, this car is still instantly recognizable. As we move further down the side, you get a new iteration of the Thor's Hammer daytime running lights, which make this very strong T section and actually extend down into the bumper. On top of that, Volvo is actually bringing back mechanical headlights by offering these and hiding the main beam behind the daytime running light itself. And so when the main beams are activated, this actually splits to reveal the projector behind it. And of course, being a Volvo that is a smart matrix LED light system, which means that when you use the high beam, it can actually blank out parts of the road as not to dazzle other road users. As we move further down the side, there are massive alloy wheels on this car. These are actually 21-inch bi-tone alloy wheels with a diamond cut finish wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport EV tires. Now, these tires are relatively high performance, as is necessary for a vehicle that's packing up to 910 Newton meters of torque. And so we certainly appreciate the fact that the rubber chosen here suits the car. And as for the wheels, I think those look spectacular. Now, as we move further down the side, we see more very typical Volvo design details. For example, we still get the frameless wing mirrors as we saw from the EX30, which look fantastic and were first seen on Polestar models. However, the stalks that they sit on are now a little bit different, because now these not only house the 360 cameras, but also the cameras that help to feed this car's adaptive driving systems or advanced driver assist features. The EX90 will be arriving in Malaysia with LiDAR as standard, which means that this car will be able to achieve autonomous driving at some point when the legislation allows it and when the software catches up. But in the meantime, that should mean that this car will come with a fully comprehensive suite of active safety features, as we've come to expect from a Volvo. We also have flush door handles on this car, a first for a Volvo in Malaysia, and they deploy mechanically. On top of that, these are electronic door latches, which means you don't need that much effort to pull them, and they also feature soft close. Now, when you look at the car as a whole, one thing that you will note moving from the XC90 into the EX90 is the complete lack of chrome. Instead, all of the finishes on this car are done up in gloss black instead, because that feels a little bit more modern. And that is the same case at the rear, where once again there is zero chrome whatsoever. Instead, you get the latest iteration of Volvo's taillight system, where it's actually split into one segment here and one segment here, but ultimately making a design language that is instantly recognizable as a Volvo. Now, the number plate has actually been moved down to the bumper in order to make space up here for very proud Volvo badging and slightly more complex servicing in order to avoid this looking like a slab or a fridge. Now, because the Volvo EX90 is a 3-row large SUV, that does mean there is plenty of space, which means that even with all 3 rows in place, you still have a huge amount of space back here, easily enough for about 4 cabin-sized luggages, and there's even space underneath the boot floor to hide even more things, including, in this case, the charging cable. This is a really deep space, which means that you can probably put 1 or 2 soft bags down here. Now, there are a couple of things that Volvo wants to point out with the EX90. Firstly is the fact that this car will come as standard with air suspension, which means that if you're sat back here, you can actually lower the car in order to improve ingress and egress of luggage into the cabin or into this luggage area. On top of that, now, a first for a 3-row Volvo, the second and third rows are fully powered, which means that folding the rear seats is just a matter of touching a button. So if you come up to your EX90 with your hands full of IKEA furniture, perhaps, you really don't have to reach in all that far in order to maximize the space back here. Now, one of the things that Volvo will not tell me is whether or not this car will come with a parcel shelf. I certainly hope that it does, because otherwise all your stuff back here will be rather obvious. The same way the XC90 debuted a portrait-style screen running the Sensus infotainment system, this EX90 also brings with it an evolution of that technology. Because while this is still a portrait-style system, this now runs Google Automotive OS, which means that this is now a lot more responsive with more online features than ever before. So, for example, this car comes with Google Maps built in, and you can even install Waze. On top of that, because this is an electric vehicle, if you were to navigate using this system, it will be able to provide you range estimations as well as battery SoC estimations upon arrival at your destination, making this an excellent companion for electric driving. But of course, the technology is only one part of a Volvo interior, simply because, yes, you have a screen here, you have another screen here which looks fantastic, and you have a full color heads-up display. That's all well and good. But ultimately, the selling point, for me at least, of a Volvo interior has always been the interior architecture and interior design, and the EX90 certainly doesn't disappoint. There are swathes of unvarnished wood all over the place which look fantastic, and even have laser micro etching in the back in order to project ambient lighting through the wood and into the cabin. There's an intelligent use of fabrics and textiles in certain touch points in order to make this car feel even more upmarket, but the majority of your touch points in this car are wrapped in beautiful stitched leather. Now, unfortunately, the vehicle that we're in today has a dark or charcoal interior, because I'm certain that this would look fantastic in white, but in international markets you can even get this with a wool interior in order to make it feel even more premium. On top of that, obviously you have a frameless mirror here, as we've seen before from Volvo, but perhaps one of the most fantastic uses of details have actually gone into certain elements. So for example, you have full width air conditioning vents which are all linked via a single piece of chrome that stretches from one side all the way to the other. The same goes for this little piece of chrome garnish here, which again goes from one edge of the dashboard all the way to the other, bisected only by a Swedish flag on the passenger side, which also integrates the space for that trim to expand and contract based on prevailing weather conditions. And then you have the speaker grills. Now, naturally, the Volvo EX90 will come with an upgraded or improved Bowers & Wilkins audio system. Again, something that first debuted on the XC90, and they integrate not only beautifully laser-cut speaker grills on each door, but also the single most beautiful center-mounted tweeter I've ever seen in my life. Now, we don't have any time to test this today, but I'm certain that this will be fantastic, as is befitting this fabulously built interior. Now, although this is a new age Volvo, some things do not change. So for example, you still get a volume knob here, which is now multifunction, very similar to what we've seen from BMW's iDrive. You get a wireless charging pad here, which also has a little holder, which is perfect for the key, because this is the key now. There are no buttons, it's just a little sort of Cadbury fob which you can put into the wireless charger to charge it up. You also get your physical controls on the side for your windows, but we have lost physical controls for everything else. So for example, while your seat controls are now a little squircle like we saw in the EX30, the control for the steering wheel, however, is electric, which has to be done in the screen. The same goes for the mirrors, which is unfortunate. The memory seats in this car are also controlled via the screen, which is But the seats, however, are still absolutely fantastic. Wrapped in Napa leather, offering ventilation and heating, as well as massage functionality and adjustment, not only for various typical angle stuff, but you also have extendable under thigh support, you get lumbar support and side bolster support, all adjustable, all programmable, which means that being sat here, it really does feel like you're sat in a comfortable armchair in your living room. Now, the Volvo EX90 is actually a physically larger car than the Volvo XC90 with a longer wheelbase. The car itself is also longer, wider and taller, which means that space in the second row is absolutely excellent. Because this car is built on a dedicated electric platform, it also means that you have none of the usual idiosyncrasies that you get with electric cars. For example, the seat squabs here are nicely angled and I have a good amount of under-thigh support. My knees actually fall the way they're supposed to, as you would normally find in a normal car. And because the front seats are set up quite high, they sit on plinths, there's lots of space for me to stretch out if I want to. It also means that this base is lovely and flat, which means that if you have 3 people sat abreast back here, there are no foot wars, so to speak. In fact, I think this is one of the most capacious rear floor space that I've seen in any car, which is fantastic. Now, with the front seat set in my driving position, about 170 centimeters, you can see I have acres of knee room. And because this car comes with a standard fit glass roof without a sunshade, I have plenty of headroom as well, more than that much actually, quite a bit here. And of course, these seats are individually adjustable as well. I can slide them fore and aft if I want to make more space for the third row. Even in the furthest most positions, you can see I still have good knee room and good headroom. They are also reclinable should you want to get even more comfortable. And when you do recline the seats, it actually extends the seat base, knowing that you need even more under-thigh support when you're taking a nap. Now, when you're not trying to do that, there are a few more amenities back here. Now, the Volvo XC90 was already a 4-zone climate control system. The EX90 is much the same. We get a couple of aircon vents down here, as well as a couple more on the B pillar, which means that everyone in the second row should be nice and comfy. There are a couple of USB-C ports, there are nets behind the pockets, there are door bins large enough for litre-sized bottles, all the things that you would expect from a luxury family SUV. On top of that, in addition to there being a center armrest with a couple of deployable cup holders, there is also the built-in booster seat that we've seen before from Volvo, which means that if you have a toddler-sized child, you can put them up here without having to fit another child seat, which is certainly nice to see. Although if you are trying to fit child seats, there are plenty of ISOFIX mounts in this car, which means that everyone should be nice and comfortable. And because the rear doors open quite wide, fitting a bulky rear-facing child seat should not be an issue. And the backs of the front seats are hard-wearing enough so that even if you rub up against them, they shouldn't damage over time. However, I think the party piece of this EX90 is actually the third row. Because as you can see, with the second row set up the way I had it earlier, I still have about that much knee room and about that much headroom. And on top of that, because this car has been so intelligently packaged, I actually have a decent amount of foot space, which means that my knees are not somewhere around my ears. The floor has actually been scalloped at an angle, which means that if I put my feet up like this, I'm actually really comfortable. I could sit back here for a couple of hours at least, if not longer still. Now, in terms of third row amenities, I actually get an air conditioning vent right here on the D pillar, which is perfectly positioned for my face. I get a cup holder here, a small cubby hole here, and a USB-C port on either side, which means that even if you put children back here, they should be perfectly fine. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Volvo EX90 is being targeted as a family car, which means that there will be a variety of interior upholstery options for our market. Now, I mentioned Napa leather earlier, and I certainly hope that becomes an option, because as it turns out, the car I'm in right now is not done in leather. In fact, this is some sort of synthetic material that we first saw from the EX30, which I think is a little bit odd in a flagship SUV like this, but it should mean that, you know, spills and crumbs should be easy to swipe off. Now, In terms of active safety features, the Volvo EX90 will offer the full gamut of pilot assist features that we've seen before from Volvo, which means that that is the full gamut of IntelliSafe features, your pilot assist features, etc., which means that this car should come with level 2.5 semi-autonomy as standard. However, given the fact this car will also come fitted with LiDAR, we expect the EX90 to be later upgraded to offer perhaps level 3 or even further in terms of semi-autonomous features, which means that this is a car that should grow with you. In terms of warranty and options, we expect this to come with exactly the same warranties that we saw from the EX30, which include not only a vehicle warranty but also a warranty for the battery and high voltage system. Now, in terms of pricing, Volvo Car Malaysia remains very tight-lipped about the total retail price for these cars, but we expect them to be broadly around the 450,000 ringgit mark. It is not clear whether that is for the flagship model, the twin motor performance, or for the twin motor itself, although that's something we'll only find out a little bit later. When the EX90 arrives, it will be doing battle with the Mercedes EQS SUV, although it will undercut it by several 100,000 ringgit, as well as the Kia EV9 in terms of 3-row large family SUVs, although we expect that the estimated price point for this car will give it a significant advantage. Let us know what you think about the Volvo EX90 in the comment section below. Do you appreciate this new styling? Do you appreciate the way Volvo has redesigned the interior as thoughtfully as it can? And more importantly, do you agree with that 450,000 ringgit estimated price tag? We're certainly very excited to see what is to come of Volvo, and more importantly, we're certainly excited to get this car out on test very soon in order to put it through the usual rigmarole that we put them through. In any case, that concludes our exclusive media preview of the new Volvo EX90. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon to be notified every time we make a new upload. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. All the links are in the description below, including the link to join our new WhatsApp channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Take care and stay safe.